Good evening, everybody. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. It's just 6:33. We were doing some IT stuff here. Today is Tuesday, June 15th, 2021, and if you would join us in the pledge, we'd appreciate it.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Randy, would you do a roll call, please?
Okay, Trustee Everson is absent and excused this evening. Trustee Winslow.
I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I'm present.
Okay, Trustee LaRue.
Present.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas, Legal Counsel Roger Zappa is here. Our Fire Chief Dan Shanahan is here, and Superintendent of Public Works Lenny Bodinas is here via Zoom. Committee member present is Mike Springer, and he's on the Iron Ore Heritage Trail for us.
Okay, thank you. Any emails for public comment?
I have none.
Okay, and let's see, anybody, so Mike, that falls to you for public. Did you want to say anything right now? Just because I'm offering public comment. Okay. All right, so no board member comment. So tonight's consent agenda consists of approval of regular meeting minutes of June 1st, 2021. We have bills payable in the amount of $275,810.91. We have the Sheriff's Department activity report from May of this year. We have the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority 616 agenda and their 519 minutes. We have May's financial statements, and you might notice that for just 5 months into the year, we've got 20 to 40% to budget, which is pretty good numbers-wise. We're being pretty conservative with our budget. And we have a roll call, we have a budget amendment that we can do a roll call on for 2021-04. And Charter Communications is changing their lineup. They lost Newsy, whatever that is. It's canceled. So I need a motion and support.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Or,
Okay, do you want to read the budget amendment?
yeah, and I got a couple comments.
Okay.
On the minutes of June 1st, instead of Trustee Wiegand, it's Trustee Winslow. So when I copied things over using Civic Clerk, that didn't quick get copied over, so now it's fixed. So that won't be a problem. And on the budget amendment 2021-04, authorization is requested to increase the wastewater meter interceptor department by $4,000 due to interceptor overflow, resulting emergency call out and cleaning. Also is requested is funding for the non-motorized path adjacent to US 41 for $50,000. The 2021 crack seal work will require $22,000 less funding, resulting in an overall fund balance decrease of $28,000. General fund classification is due to changes, additions to the community center for safety and security. And also on that budget amendment, it's where it's therefore be resolved. It should be 2021. There's a 2019 there in accordance. I read it, that the Marquette Township Board hereby amends the Appropriation Acts for 2019, so that should be 2021, in accordance with budgetary information presented in the board, limitations defined within this resolution, so I'll change that also. So the motion needs to be for amended.
Sure.
Is that
So
okay?
moved.
And is that okay?
Accept it.
Yeah, okay, so we're good. Has to be a roll call vote too.
Right, go ahead.
Okay, Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes,
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Okay. And I need approval of the remainder of the agenda unless someone has anything they want to change. And I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest that pertain tonight.
So moved to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Support.
Motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay. Next up, I'm gonna move you up, Mike, to, under privileged comment so that we can let our staff go. Mike sent a presentation to us and I misunderstood. I thought he was gonna do a Heritage Trail presentation tonight, so I apologize if I misunderstood. This is on the Heritage Trail, or the Iron Range Roll, you have a presentation.
Okay, Mike, you should be able to see the screen. Can you see that? You're on mute, so we can't hear you. Get yourself off of mute.
Yes, thank you, Randy. Thank you, Lynn. This is actually part about the Iron Ore Heritage Rec Authority, as well as an event we had recently. So this is community linkage, and I'm hoping that maybe once every month, once every 2 months, I should introduce myself. I'm the rep for the Iron Ore Heritage Rec Authority alternate. I'm the alternate. And Glenn Johnson is the actual rep. He does the hard stuff. I get to do the fun stuff and report the things that we're doing. So that's what this is about. Next slide, please.
Okay, hold on, Mike.
So a few images I'm going to show you next is in the board packet for the minutes from April 28th. Those have not been posted yet, but I can get those to you through Lynn Durant if you would like me to, if you want to see more of what I'm going to show you. Next slide, please. So one of the things that the authority's been working on is a new map. And one of the things I want to point out to people that, a good portion of the Iron Ore Heritage Trail is open to ORVs, motorized traffic. And so this is a part of their new maps. So if you comment on those, you can see those. Randy Rutari has this PDF. I'm sure the Rec Authority would like to know your comments. Next page, please. So, of course, we highlight the bike and hike trails. There's some, you're looking closer, you can see different places on this new map that highlight mostly hiking and biking trails. Next slide, please. Also in this this board packet you may want to look at are a number of goals. And there's one goal here I want to highlight for tonight's presentation. And it says this, hold it still for me, Randy. It says the Iron Ore Heritage Trail will provide a long-term, year-round access trail for event creators. Events not only to bring more users to our trail, but bring visitors to the region who may not have discovered us without the event. Raise funds for local nonprofit groups like the YMCA. To the region who may not, provide better health through training, event prep, and excitement to the region. We need to access event planners' needs and make sure we can have the amenities in place to provide a quality event. I'm going to emphasize that again. Next slide, please. So this is, recently we had a meeting in May. Those board minutes haven't been published yet or provided to the board, but I do want to highlight something that we covered. Next slide, please. As you will recall, this is exciting news. Tomorrow, Ms. Fulcher is going to present to the MNRTF board the proposal to put in public hands in perpetuity property in our township and also in Negaunee Township. Next slide, please. You may remember some of these slides. This just shows you the general proximity of the property that we're talking about. Next slide, please. This is also that you've seen the yellow box are the donors of the matching funds, the Schwemmen Britton family. The two green boxes are within our township, and the blue box is in Negaunee Township. So total possible use would be 174 acres open to the public. Next slide, please. I put this one in here because it's a little easier for me to understand. This is approximately where that property is. And the purple line there is County Road 492. And the blue line, of course, is the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. And that dark line in the lower left-hand corner, that, of course, is the active ore trail. I mean, that's the railroad. So next slide, please. So many of you probably have seen this place if you've been on the trail. I just want to point out to you, this lady here, her name is Christy Evans. I was looking for, trying to find a photo that I had of that location, and this is the one I could come up with. That's because on October 13th, in 2018, Christy Evans, my wife, Michelle Moran, and myself bicycled the total length of the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. Next slide, please. So this should concern us, or at least be aware of the fact that what is being proposed is that that trestle, that number 8, you can see the blue spot there, and you can see the proximity of Schwemmen Park. So in the proposal, it's being proposed that parking would occur at Schwemmen Park. And I know we have a small parking lot there. Also notice that if you look at our rec plan, you'll see that we could improve our amenities there by having some restrooms. But anyways, the board and the rec committee should be aware of this more of a demand on Schwemmen Park and consider what we can do to facilitate that. Next slide, please. So here's our park, there's Schwemmen Park. You know, a lot of people don't rate it as a park because really what Schwemmen is, it's a, next slide, please. It's part of a linear trail. It's just one node on a linear trail, a trail that goes 47 miles and provides lots of recreation for, you know, different types of recreation users. Next slide, please. So I've already read this to you about events and how important they are. You know, we're having a classic car show coming up, and that's an important event. We have events at Lions Field, Catch the Vision, and that's important because that's, well, you'll see what, I already know what it is. Next slide, please. So I want to talk to you about a stool. As a mathematician, I prefer triangles as being stable, but all of us know that probably the most stable platform to sit on is a stool, even sometimes more so than a four-legged chair. So what I want to talk to you, next slide, is about the recreation stool. Next slide. The first leg of the stool is you have to acquire property, either through a conservation easement or ownership, much like we did with Schwimmen Park. We came together, the community came together, the board approved it, put some money towards that. We were able to purchase some property that actually gave us access to the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. Prior to that, the Schwimmen Park we would have had to build a walkway, a stairway to get up to the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. So this was a great acquisition and it gave us a foundation for the next leg. Next slide, please. So the other of this is once you acquire the property, you need to develop it to attract people. What's the main use of this park? And so you develop it. And the other part of it, and that's kind of why this is in red, is maintain it. And fortunately, our citizens have recently recognized the importance of maintenance for our parks and have voted for the millage. And also, we have done that. We've invested, we've had a couple of other grants that we have invested into Schwimmen Park, state grants that help develop these amenities. But the last thing is, next slide, is programming or events. And so this is why the next part I'm going to show you is a part of Schwimmen Park, Iron Ore Heritage Trail, and what we're trying to accomplish at Schwimmen. Next slide, please. So we had our 8th annual. The township has been involved in this for 8 years. 8th annual Iron Range Roll. Next slide, please. And what this is, it is a fun and competitive for a lot of people, but it's a fun, it's also something that we benefit nonprofit organization, in this case, the YMCA. Next slide, please. I also want to note, I don't have a recent picture of Carol Fulcher, but she rode Sweet with me this year. Next slide, please. And finally, I want to recognize our emergency services, Dan Shanahan, Rob Cochran, Mike Gregorich. For 8 years, the township has been there for this Iron Range Roll event we put on. And they've provided not only help at the safety at the crossings, but also have set up the safety meetings at the Township Fire Hall. So I want to shout out to them and thank you again for your help with this. They also provide us walkie-talkies so we can stay in contact with emergency service. They really help make this a safe event. And that's really our bottom line. We don't want anybody to get hurt. And last slide, please. So just shout out to emergency services, not only our emergency services, but the sheriff was there. A lot of city police cadets were there. We actually had a state trooper who was at the safety meeting. His name is Mark Giannunzio. He's from Manistee, and he's a state trooper, and he rode in the event. So that's the news from Lake Wobegon for tonight. And thank you.
Excellent, Mike. Thank you. That's a wide range of information you gave us, even more than what I was thinking. So we appreciate it. Any questions for Mike? Okay. Thanks again. All right, staff reports. Let's start with the fire department.
Grab Roger's microphone over here, because otherwise they're not going to hear you. So. It's on, so all I got to do is talk into it.
It's wheel when he gets over there.
No, it won't.
Good to go?
Yeah.
All righty. First of all, Mike Springer, looks like he left already, but no, we enjoy doing it too. And I know we've been doing it for 8 years and we do enjoy it. I'll be brief again. But I would like to talk about our training this past month. We did get to do something a little different that we've never done before. Marquette City sets up a driving course, and quite a few of our guys got to attempt to drive through the cones, which are only 3 inches wider than the actual, 6 inches total, wider than the actual vehicle. And there's about 1,000 cones set up, so it's quite a course, and got a little competitive, and it was fun. We did some mutual aid training out at the ski hill this past month, again with Marquette City and Marquette Township fire departments. Staying with training, we did do our first in-person CEU training this month. We're switching from the combi tube over to the King Airways, which is pretty much what everybody else in the county's using. Emergency response, we did have the one structure fire that I'm sure everybody's pretty much aware of. Again, assisted by Marquette Township and Marquette City Fire. Year-to-date call volume is approximately the same as it's been the past year. Meetings, we did, just to inform you, and I don't know if I've talked to Manager Kangas about this or not yet. We did have a meeting with Marissa regarding an intern, possibly next year. So it's something we've done in the past. We haven't the last couple of years, but we think that's a good thing, and it might spark some more interest with some of the younger people maybe wanting to get on a fire department or get in the emergency services. And then the grant department, we hope to close out our AFG COVID grant this week. And the money part, Firehouse software, which we've been using for approximately 20 years, we found out in January that they were going to be going away. We've been researching other softwares, and we're probably going to be sticking with Firehouse, but we are currently paying approximately $1,200 a year. Firehouse will cost us, there'll be an approximately $7,000 startup, and then 35 to, and my numbers were wrong because we got a contract yesterday that they wanted us to sign, which we're not, but they're trying to push us along. It's going to be roughly $3,500 annually. We did search with other townships in the city and see what software they're using, and this seems like our best bet. It's the software that the department has been using for the last 20 years, and they guarantee they will transfer all of our history over, where none of the other software companies would guarantee that without losing it. So, and that's something we will have to, not budgeted for, and they say it'll take 3 months once we sign the contract, and it's going to expire at the end of the year. We're in June, so it's money we did not anticipate having to spend this year. Just a heads up, I guess. So we're probably looking at $9,000 that we were not anticipating this year. And that's it for me, unless anybody has any questions.
Who has questions for the chief? Anybody? Pete?
I'd like to commend the fire chief for running such a good department. Everyone seems to be happy, everything seems to be going very smoothly, and so I just want to say thank you.
It's going good. We got a good group of guys, and like I said, we had that fire over there. Let me tell you, the guys and gals did a phenomenal job. Very impressive. Even the other agencies that were helping us out were quite impressed. Went real well.
Still waiting for my pictures, but that's all right.
Pardon me?
Still waiting for my pictures.
I know. Well,
I'm just kidding.
Mike does have the most recent one. The individual pictures we're working on currently, because we do need to get IDs set up too, and that's got to happen this or next month. It has to. Just something we need to do.
Well, I've been working with John and Lenny and Dan and we're going to get to see all of our employees over the next few months.
Yeah.
We'll bring 1 or 2 in each meeting, depending on the schedule, how that works out with people's schedules. And
How about our new website now? I think we could get, if we had the pictures, we could put them all on there.
that would be nice too.
Because, they do a lot of work for the township and they're, especially the fire department, and it'd be nice to know who they are. Just say thank you once in a while.
Well, and Public Works too, and the.
That's what I mean,
office.
all of them.
Yeah, yeah, everybody. So the public, it's not just us meeting new ones, it's for the public to know who comes
Right.
up and knocks on their door, you know, for whatever reason. Randy?
Chief Shanahan, me and Manager Kangas been researching ID printing machines for cards, and maybe that's something we could share between the township and the fire department, because we're looking at, you know, like the city where they can print those cards, and, you know, you can use them to get in. I don't know if, I guess we have to do more research, but you could use them as a badge too, you know, to get into the doors and things, like over here, if you had to. And maybe someday at your place, I'm not sure, but.
Right, yeah, we don't think that would work for us. You know, the swipe, I guarantee, you know, in the middle of the night, guys will come in pajamas, they don't even, you know,
Oh,
have their wallet or what. So I'm just saying but, no, we're definitely interested in sharing the cost or whatever for an ID, because it's something we need to do.
yeah.
We were gonna farm it out, we were gonna have to just take pictures and send it out to a company.
Yeah, I think between, and your membership changes over time, so you
Right.
could probably utilize it more than us, but maybe that's
No.
something we'll look into, getting an ID. We did talk to the city, how they have theirs, and I guess we don't have to get a complex one like they have, as long as we can get a machine that produces an ID and, you know, go from there, so.
Right, no, that sounds real good. Something we've been looking at, so.
You've been busy on inspections too, I noticed.
Yeah,
with-
yeah,
That's
it's.
pretty good. New properties coming in, short-term
It's a new
rentals.
property, sure, yes,
Yeah.
yep,
And the
yeah, it's keeping us
Flintstone.
busy.
Yeah. I don't know when you have time to fight fires.
I know, well, there's
That's why you
not a
put
lot
that-
of those,
that's why you
but there's
put
the
that thing
other.
out every month, you know, no fires.
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
Where are we
Good.
with the smoke alarms and stuff now? We still can't have people pick?
We're
them
not,
up?
we haven't, and maybe we
Doing that
will
yet?
next month start installing, they can still come in and, pick them up.
Okay.
I guess we don't advertise that enough.
Well, that's why I wanted to mention it for
yeah,
anybody that might
thank
be
you.
listening.
You just don't install them.
We will not, no, we're not installing them just yet. I guess we're sort of waiting for everything just to be more relaxed. We got a real scare in March of last year. A bunch of, before all the shutdowns, and then the county called our fire department and put this fear into us, I'll just say that. We said, oh boy. They were gonna keep a bunch of us home for a long time, and I go, we can't do that, but everything was fine, but it put the fear in us to, let's follow the letter of the law. And so now we're playing a little bit of extra safe, maybe. But
So if somebody does need a new fire alarm,
Yeah.
you can,
call the fire department, leave a voicemail,
fire or smoke or both?
smoke detectors.
Smoke detectors.
Yeah, we do have some carbon monoxide detectors also.
Okay.
Yep.
And they're free? and
They're
you
free.
Come and pick them up?
Come pick them up. Yeah,
Somebody
you have to
to-
fill out a form, because it
Okay.
is a state government, it was a grant through the state. Just number of bedrooms, how many people live in the house, that type of thing. And that's
So they
really
might
about
be
it.
able to get more than one? then.
Oh,
It's
yes,
like-
yep. We're trying to
multiple
limit it, we're
bedrooms.
trying to keep them to 2,
Okay,
but if a family has some, upstairs, we can give away 3, depending on the house. Because we don't have that many, if everybody
Yeah,
came in
wanna
and we
share.
done as much as we can.
Sure.
Yep,
okay.
yeah.
Good. Anything else for the chief? Linda,
All right.
anything for the
Thank you.
chief? Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Mr. B, Public Works, Lenny.
Well, just got a few things here as well. The first thing is for stormwater, and I know that a lot of it already went out through the media and through some emails and stuff, but for those who do not know, we were awarded that non-point source grant. It's gonna be in the amount just over 293,000, so a good chunk of change. It's gonna go towards replacing 4 culverts on Montgomery, Norwood, Erie, and Huron streets. So this is gonna help restore natural stream, the stream hydrology, and hopefully reduce non-point source pollution, stuff like sediment and other things that come off the road there. The project is slated to start in 2022, so we're kind of working with the beginnings of that process, getting everything set up. One thing that we probably want to keep in mind for next year, with some of these new culverts going in, there might be conflicts with their water and sewer utilities. So some of those might have to be rearranged or moved to accommodate the culverts. So that's just something we have to keep in our minds, and something that we're going to go through here the next few months here, and get all that hammered out and figured out what we're going to do there. So we'll keep you kind of in the loop on that, what's going on as we go forward. For wastewater, we recently walked the sewer interceptor main, the one that goes from the Harley Davidson shop basically all the way down to Front Street. Myself and a few of our crew, we kind of went through with some city personnel and kind of figured out where all our manholes are at and what exactly the route of the sewer interceptor is. So we're going to be developing an inspection plan, a maintenance schedule, and just make sure that we don't have any unintended overflows like we had there about a month or so ago. So we're going to try to keep on top of that. For now, everything looks pretty good. When we went through our inspection, looked at everything looks like it's working as it should, and we intend that way. Also, not on this report, but just in general, we have been doing some sewer inspections through some various manholes. We did find some where there was some infiltration coming in. Particularly, there was one on the west end of Fair Avenue. We worked on that over the past week, got that sealed up, and trying to keep as much water, unintended water, out of our sewer as possible. So that's kind of an ongoing project. When we find something, we kind of mark it down, and we go back and we try to seal everything up and get it nice and tight again. For water, our water operator, Rob Melke, has been busy taking samples. He recently took TPHMs and HAA5s, that's basically total trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids. So those are required sample sets that we must take from Eagle. He's also now busy taking lead copper samples. Again, those are routine required samples, and to date, all of our these most current sample sets results have not come back yet, but historically we do pretty well, and our water's very good. So the Northwoods tank is currently down. It's getting repainted. St. Germain painting is up there. They're going through both the interior and the exterior, so it's going to be a full repaint and recoat, or sand down and recoat, I should say, of paint. They anticipate a completion date in early July. One thing to note is people or residents who are on our well water system might notice a change. We've actually already had they were wondering what was going on because the water tasted different. Basically, that's coming down to a difference between the chlorination rate. Our well water is chlorinated at a little bit less than what our purchased water is. So people who are sensitive to chlorine really notice that. So if anybody out in the community asks any questions, that's probably what they're noticing, and we're just trying to get that out to people that they're probably going to notice. They might notice something different with the water over the next few weeks, specifically if they were in the well water district. Everything's good, everything's safe. I mean, it's just basically a difference between the chlorine application rate. The water main work on Ontario Phase 2, that project for us anyhow, our part of it is almost complete. They did the pressure test here throughout the last couple days, and I believe the first bacteriological sample test was taken today. So hopefully that will be all tied in here in the next few days and ready to go. And as far as the US Highway or US 41 Highway project, pretty much all of anything that was going to impact us should have passed on unless something unanticipated comes up with some of their storm sewer work or other things that are going on. With both projects, we have an inspector that's pretty much staying out on both projects, just making sure that in case something unanticipated happens, or with the construction, something gets kind of close to our water or sewer, that we know what's going on and we can take steps to help mitigate any problems. Building and grounds, our staff has been busy doing a lot of routine mowing, cleaning, and general maintenance around all of our buildings. I had the irrigation system at Lions Field that was down due to there was a pressure vacuum breaker that was broke. Like everything else, when we went to try to find new parts for it, everything was out months to get it, was supply chain-ish. And when we did find one, it was very expensive. So We were able to kind of do some minor surgery with some parts that we had from an old one, and we were able to get it back working in the proper operational status here. So you should be seeing the sprinkler systems on there again. We're going to try to get that grass nice and green. Prior to that, we were watering it with a fire hose, trying to keep water on it while we were trying to make our repairs. So hopefully we won't have to do that anymore. And also one other thing there at the pavilion too, we're currently looking at maybe getting some quotes to replace those 3 doors into the pavilion. We went over there and they're really banged up, and the locks and lock sets and everything are all banged up. So we're going to try to get some quotes on that and, you know, see what the time delays are on getting parts for those or getting new doors, and we'll come back with some quotes here hopefully by the next meeting. That's all I have for tonight. Any questions?
That's a lot. Holy smokes. Yours is another department that's like a well-oiled machine, Lenny, and everybody seems to be functioning so well with under your management. We appreciate that. Ernie had a question?
Yes, I have a question on, I got it on. It's on. The culvert, what type of culverts are you putting in on Montgomery, Northwood, and Erie and Huron? Are they the steel or are they concrete?
I believe they're slated to be concrete ones. John maybe can help me. You know, I think, are they the bottomless ones or I can't remember.
They would be bottomless arch culverts, and it would either be corrugated steel plating or concrete. It really depends on the budget. As Lenny said, there's some water and sewer impacts on all 4 of them. We don't know if those would be participating costs under the grant or if the grant can even afford to pay for all of those. So we're sure right off the bat that this budget is going to have to be managed very tightly to make sure we can get the project done. And I'm guessing it's probably going to be a steel plate bottomless arch.
Okay, thank you.
What was I gonna ask you? Hang on a second. It was, the routine samples. How are you doing that? Are you taking those samples from faucets, or are you checking just from mains, or how do you get those?
Certain samples like the TTHMs and the HAA5s, they have actually specific addresses that they must come from. We had to create a plan and submit it to Eagle for approval. So a lot of those come from specific addresses that would be considered like a representative sample. So sometimes they are from private residences. The lead copper samples are based on a criteria that has to be met, and those are from private residents. I think we have 10 in the well water district and 10 in the surface water district. And then there's some other routine samples that are specifically specifically for the well house. So those samples will come out of the well house right out of the tap as soon as it enters the system. So it kind of depends on what the test is and what the sample is where they're taken.
Okay, and I imagine that'd be kind of all over the township then, all different areas?
Yep, so we try, depending on what sample is, it has to be representative of, like the lead copper, it has to meet a specific set of criteria is handed down by Eagle, and then we kind of have to investigate, make sure that our location meets those. Whereas the well ones are pretty specific just to the well house, so it would just come out of that particular sample port.
Okay. Anything else for Lenny? Okay, thanks. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, up to the attorney's report.
Well, I'm happy to report there weren't any legal emergencies or really urgent things that came up. It's been kind of business as usual items, review of a lot of contracts and agreements because it's the construction season. I reviewed the non-motorized pathway contract that's in your board packet. I reviewed a Stantec contract for conducting a 10-year revenue sufficiency analysis that's coming up. We finalized the settlement in the Buffalo Wild Wings Tax Tribunal matter, and we're in discussions on the Thomas Theater Tax Tribunal appeal right now. I issued a short opinion on a question that arose on an insurance payment being offered due to a truck damaging a hydrant last winter. And it falls under some of the nuances of the Michigan No Fault Act. And we've been giving some ongoing legal guidance on a situation on Granite Street that poses both a health hazard and a probable violation of the property maintenance code. And I, of course, also reviewed the mitigation plan resolution that's in the board packet tonight. And there was a minor question that came up after the structure fire issue that we addressed with the fire department as well. And there's probably something I'm overlooking, but those are some of the ones that came to mind.
That's a lot. Any questions for the attorney? Good, great, thank you. We're glad to have you. All right, community linkage. Does anybody have anything they want to share that they're hearing in the public, from their neighbors?
I'll say one thing.
Sure.
I was over the Lions field where the recreation for the kids are, and let her take the grandson into the bathroom. My wife went in there, and my daughter went in there, and the baby, and we're sitting on the bench waiting for them to come out, and my daughter said, "Boy, it's just ever nice and clean." And it was really very nice and clean. It's very kept up. You know, I mean, it's just unbelievable, because I've been in the different places that kind of crappy, and it just, but ours is very nice and clean. And I asked a couple of the ladies, "Have you been in there?" She yes. She said, I said, "What do you think?" Very clean. Oh, really surprised. So
Too bad Lenny didn't hear that, he's already off.
we had enough of him.
Oh.
No, but
Tell his
it's
staff.
always nice. You know, we all have been in different bathrooms and stuff like that, and for the people to bring their kids in there, a lot of them didn't like the outhouse, you know, the porta potty and stuff like that, because I just had to say that.
Good, thanks. Randy?
On a community linkage, yeah, I was over there at the Lions Field, probably 3 weeks ago, and the softball was having one of their games, the high school, and I was talking to a few folks, and very good, nice upgrades to the park, but they lost their batting cage with the path over there. So I talked to Manager Kangas, and maybe we can see where they can stick a batting cage, maybe beyond left field or something, where that probably either the horseshoe pits were gonna go or the basketball court. There's room out there, so that's maybe something that we can work with the high school and the Little League to get a batting cage reinstated there for them, because that's pretty important in a park, and especially they're using it that's their home field, so it's nice to have a batting cage there, so. So maybe that's something we can get some partnership with to get that going for next year, or even maybe later this year, but get it ready for next spring anyway.
Yeah.
Or look at across the street where the bus garage is. You know, try to acquire a little bit of property over there, or buy the garage out, and, you know, do something there. We talked about that a couple of years back, about buying that piece of property with the garage is on, and that little piece there, so we can store stuff in there and also have parking.
Thought. Maybe we can look at that during the budget. See where that goes.
I'm sure, like I said, I think the high school and the Little League would help us out with putting the cage up. It's just a matter of finding a spot for it, because I think they have the cage, because they had to take it down when we put the path on there, so. And I was looking there, there isn't enough room to put it with the path there in the street. There just isn't much there room, so it'd be better off it'd be on the outfield fence somewhere. There's more room.
That's a good idea. Anybody else?
Oh, Linda.
Oh, Linda, go ahead, thank you.
So, we are going to, about renewing that contract with the high school, correct?
I think it's coming up, Linda. I think it's next year or the year after, so maybe that's something we can put in there.
Yeah, well, I don't think we have a contract with them anymore. Not been renewed. Isn't that what was decided, John Kangas?
The agreement we found expired actually several years ago, I think. So the
Yeah.
plan is to try to nail that down to current terms.
Right.
Hopefully, there doesn't have to be a lot of change to the agreement portion, but I guess we'll see how that goes.
I thought it was
So
a
someone will be
multi-year.
working with the high school on that and the Little League, or whoever uses it?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. I did check with the county administrator, because I heard that they were possibly going to cancel the state of emergency, which kind of affects our Zoom connection with board members, and they have no plans to cancel that before the end of the year. So if something else changes with the governor, or who knows what, they might look at it, but I just wanted to bring that up, so that we're still kind of covered with Zoom, to be able to have staff, board members right now. I mean, it's multifaceted. Roger was talking about that before the meeting started, but I just wanted to kind of let you know. The other thing I was going to mention is the MTA Insights articles that I forwarded to you, and you also got a copy of the response that I got from Sarah Cambenzi on why she was supporting the short-term rental, how would you word it?
Not local control.
Yeah, losing our local control. And she said, you can, in the letter, of course, it says that she wanted to be able to speak on it. So I don't understand their processes when it goes to committee, but apparently in order for her to have some say and to refute it, she had to say she was supporting it. So I didn't quite understand that, but anyway, then I responded back, and you've got a copy of that, talking about it doesn't matter, in my mind, whether we have short-term rentals or not. I mean, that's not the point. The whole point is the loss of our control. They don't want us to regulate. The MTA says that it would preempt the township's authority to regulate short-term rentals. And that's my argument, because we already have short-term rentals and we already have ordinances dealing with them. So that's fine. But the state is trying to take total control. If you remember, with our planning commission, must have been last year, we had some local people come in and have some discussion with the planning commission on regulations and not, and it got a little bit involved. I think legal was involved. And I thought, now how would they do that? Would they go to Lansing? How would they even have a conversation? And the idea for this bill is that the short-term rentals could go anywhere in any neighborhood. So the community really should be able to do that themselves, because each community is different. Same thing with the sand and gravel mining. We had that conversation a couple meetings ago. So I just wanted to kind of point that out and mention again that the correspondence back and forth with Sarah. Did you have a comment, Ernie? Or
This reminds me somewhat of, in the past, we went to cable and that, and television and that, where the state one took over everything. We have no control of everything when the cable wants to make any changes and that. In the past, they had to come to the local municipalities. Now they can't. It goes through the state. Well, you never heard anything about the state. The state did it, and then they just kind of walked away, and to do anything down there is almost impossible. So we're just at the mercy of the cable companies and that, wherever they're at in the state. We only have one to worry about here, or two, and then that's it, so. But that follows the same procedure as what happened back then and that too, so.
it gets lost in a room somewhere, an office somewhere. Randy?
I did see I was viewing the City of Marquette agenda, and they did have a resolution towards the end of their meeting refuting, they have the same problem as us, and they're refuting the state control of the short-term rentals. So that might be something we want to do, is do a resolution and not in favor of it like they did,
Well, and
and send it on to our legislator anyway.
It's already, which one is it, John, remind me, the mining one already went, right? It's already done, so the only way we could refute that one would be to go to the governor, we'd have to write a letter. The city manager did contact me yesterday and asked if they could share the information back and forth with Sarah. So I asked John this morning if he thought there was a problem with that, so I can share that information with them, because they want to deal through MML, which, you know, all of this is coming from MTA, and they're fighting it too, on the local control for sand and gravel as well as the short-term rentals. It's about the control, again, you know, like I mentioned in the letter, we used to be able to have input on the speed limits in the township. It was us and the road commission and the state police. That was actually right before I got on the board. And now they took that away. You know, we can't even sit at the table with them anymore. They decide. And I know we've had contact with and from a lot of residents who have said, can you change or control or do something about speed limits in this neighborhood? Well, we can't. We can't do anything. So it's just one more way of taking control away. And when residents, this is the grassroots level, when residents want to see something, they come to us, which segues into the next letter we got tonight. You got a copy of it too, from some residents on Eagles Nest Road about recycling. And John and I responded back, and you got copies of that, so you could see they come to the local municipality. You know, we try to figure out how to make it work or who to contact. And that's the way it should be. And I told them we're working with the solid waste and trying to figure out where that goes, you know, how to work it. So I did want to share that a little bit with you. And I did just get an email too from Mike Springer, who wanted to amend his presentation a little bit to mention that 222 people registered for the Iron Range Roll this year, and they were able to raise $6,000 for the YMCA. So for the whole 8 years that we've been doing this as a community, they've raised over $30,000. So that's pretty impressive for the Y. And that, you know, that's what we're supposed to do as a community, is help everybody.
The next push is that with the wolves, who's gonna decide on, you know,
That's a little more controversial too, because people you either hate them or you love them, you know, so that's gonna be more difficult, I think. So from a community standpoint, I think that's, I don't know, we'll see what happens with MTA. Like I say, if we feel like we need to write a letter to the governor, we're gonna have to do it pretty soon. I don't know when that'll come up again on regulating the sand and gravel mining. We have mines, they're fine, you know, they're good. Oh, the other thing I wanted to share too is from our supervisor and managers meetings on Thursday, they pointed out, well, yeah, we discussed that the Senate bill for the sand and gravel did pass, and it goes to the House Committee Treasury Department sees it next, so, and then I think it goes to the governor. And it was recommended from one of the, well, actually the Negaunee Township supervisor, that we suggest changing some of the wording so that the township still, or the city or county still has local control, but maybe we say a quarter mile from a house or half mile from a house or whatever that distance ends up being, and it still ends up being local control. So anyway, they're gonna recommend that. And don't forget well, I'll email you that one because that's not public, for the public. County Circuit Court judge trying to recruit a new one. Okay, that was in the news. Okay, so that's the highlight. We're not really getting COVID updates anymore from the health department on Thursdays because it's kind of
gonna throw them all out anyway, so.
yeah. So I'm hoping this week we get to actually visit with the new city manager. She should be there, Karen. So that's it, community-wise, unless anybody has something else. Okay, policy discussion, consideration, and development. Consider dissolving the road committee.
I
So
would,
before everybody gets all panicky,
No, I wanna put it off to another meeting because
I'd just like to explain the reasons.
You don't have any good reasons.
I'd like to give you some background. It's an agenda item. So before everybody jumps over the dais, I'd like to add to John's history a little bit here. The board can make any kind of committee it wants. And we can structure it any way we want. The standard committees that we have now have bylaws and agendas and meetings and quorums and structure. And sometimes that's hard to maintain. And instead of actually saying dissolving the road committee, I would have used probably suspend instead, because I don't believe it should be dissolved. It was created and disbanded and resurrected in my lifetime on the board because different things have changed. Hang on a second, John. I saw your light. Let me just finish what I was thinking. We have an events committee now that's not structured. They provide an extremely important structure and function for the township. And what we were thinking was that because of the way the road millage project is set up right now, an active meeting committee may not be as necessary. So the proposal would be to have whoever wants to participate and connect with staff, whether it's Pete or if Dave wants to, or our new member that I just appointed, Stan, wants to get together and connect with staff and have periodic meetings themselves and talk about, you know, what roads are going to be done and help staff work on that. It would help the staff we have now not have to worry about minutes and quorums and canceling meetings and scheduling meetings and agendas, so that it would be a modified committee. And that's why I wanted to explain, it's not dissolving the committee, it's just repurposing it temporarily. If at some point we have the need to do more stuff, then we just resurrect it completely and go right back to the agendas and minutes and quorums and everything else and appointing. This way we don't have to appoint. If somebody just wants to join in, like the events committee, they can. And I think it's just been so much of a struggle lately to get members and to have structure that it makes more sense to leave it loose. And the board can do that. We can make an ad hoc committee or whatever we want to call it, and still have it function and provide a service. So that's the reason for bringing it up, and I'm sorry that it did say dissolving. That wasn't the thought process I was going with.
That was my word.
Yeah,
Thanks
that's
a lot,
okay.
Bill.
Let me see what, John, you had your butter.
Yeah. I understand exactly what you've said, and I appreciate the dilemma that presented. Before we start any discussion about the route forward, I'd like to put something behind us that I think would be extremely useful to have behind us. And so I'd like to make a motion, and I've given this a lot of thought, and I'm sympathetic to the supervisor's position. I'm going to make a motion, and before I get to support, I'll pass it out so that people don't misunderstand my intention. And while it's being passed out, I'll start to read it. I move that the Marquette Charter Township Board formally recognize that the mission assigned to the road committee, the mission related to our extensive millage-funded local street road maintenance program, is complete. Further, that the completion of the mission assigned was only possible with the careful consideration and thoughtful committee selection of the project properties by those who serve. That's my motion. I think they did a great job, and before we move on to anything else, we need to put this behind us. And that's it.
Randy?
Well, Pete might have been first, but I have to ask Roger a question, is because when we did go out for millage for the roads, there was something in the millage question that did pertain to the road committee. And I don't think you can really dissolve that until the millage question is over.
15
Correct.
years.
We need to take a look at the millage proposal, the specific language, because
I believe
reserved power to designate additional road projects as recommended by the road committee from time to time.
Correct.
That's an extremely loose paraphrase without having looked at it in probably at least 4 or 5 years.
But if indeed it does say that, then I don't think you can really disband that committee.
We'll have to see what it says and in what context before taking any action on something like that. Also, having a hybrid committee, I have to just jump in and add my cautionary statement that any meeting of a committee would normally have to comply with the Open Meetings Act and so forth, and there are minute requirements and so forth and so on for that, so.
Okay, but because it's an established committee, I mean, the events committee doesn't do anything like that.
I'll need to see what is being proposed. I mean, I can think of a dozen different scenarios that could happen. I'm just saying, don't do something without thinking about that.
That's why I wanted to have the discussion, you know.
So maybe this discussion should be moved until Roger looks at that, because I think trustee Marks is basically, I think that his is on point for that, but basically you have to, until that thing is complete, that village question, you can't do anything really about the roads committee, if I'm looking at that correct, right, John, sort of like that?
What is the question?
I'm looking at your motion, and basically I'm reading it as you're not gonna do anything about the roads committee until your village question is
There's
done.
there's no mention in this other than complimenting what happened at the road committee, and that the mission that was given to them is complete. That's, I think.
Well, it is complete to a point, because it does, I'm gonna shoot from the hip a little bit here, but I believe it does say in our millage question, which Roger did phrase, that, I mean, if we had monies left over, and then I think the road committee could recommend to the board to do, other different maintenance or things. So that in my mind, says their mission is not complete, if that indeed is what the millage question says, and we have to look at that yet. So maybe this topic is something we should look at next meeting. When we look at the millage question, because I think the millage question is the key to this, because it's tied into the road committee.
And a good part of what spurred the thought with this is that the road committee hasn't been able to even meet. Well, they can meet, but there's not enough of them to have a quorum, so they can't do anything anyway. They
There's
don't
a
have
reason
any
for that,
power to spend money, it's just a recommendation to the board. So,
But I'm stating though, if the millage question says that,
I understand.
we have to go with what the millage question says. That's what we presented to our voters, and the voters are gonna, they're gonna expect that the roads committee do their due diligence and any other maintenance that needs to be done, if there's funds left over. So I think it was good to have discussion, but I think the final discussion has to take place at a later date when we find out and get Roger's opinion on what the millage question does say.
Okay, John's got his hand up.
So, interesting point of fact regarding the millage funds themselves.
Which is what I
They
wanted to
do
say.
they do not cover the full debt and interest payment every year. So there aren't extra millage funds to consider as far as how you spend them annually. They are completely dedicated to paying only a portion of the debt and interest. So the general fund is supplementing the debt and interest payments, and there isn't extra millage revenue to play with on future projects. It's solely general fund supplements that's covering what gets done on an annual basis as far as crack sealing, chip sealing, any other preventive maintenance projects we do. So wanted to make sure everyone was clear on that. It is that way in the budget, but thought you should know.
Hang on one second, Linda. John, go through the numbers, just even rounding them off that we were
Okay.
talking about,
Sure. So
so the board knows.
the millage generates approximately $407,000 this year, okay? And the transfer into the public improvement budget from the general fund includes that 407,000, but is a total of 528,000. So you've got about $121,000 of general fund supplement going into this public improvement fund to cover the additional expense for the preventive maintenance, but also the principal and interest payments. So 407,000 is what the millage generates, and the debt payments are 463. All right? So the general fund is covering that difference and fully paying for the remainder of any additional work we do annually. Just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that gap.
We've been pretty much doing that from the beginning. I remember Randy saying, I don't remember what the amount was, that after that first year, we had to supplement it, and it's just grown every year to, a sizable amount now. So, Linda, go ahead. Thank you for waiting.
I agree with Randy Rattari. I'd like to kind of wait and look at this. I'm not sure what that money was intended for. I'm not sure it was intended to do that crack seal, or if it was only intended to do some road repairs. I guess I'd like to know what the voters voted for and why we were spending more money than they voted for. And who decided it could come out of the general fund? I mean, that wasn't the intent that went to the voters, I don't think. So I guess I have some questions.
Go ahead, John.
So the simple answer to that last question is the board decided to spend the extra money when they approved this budget and the prior budgets.
So then that's not what that's great. I mean, I support that, I think, but that's not saying that the road millage isn't paying what it was intended for. It paid what it was intended for, and the board decided to spend more money.
No,
Is that what you're saying?
not exactly, right, no.
No?
The amount of money that it takes to do what the millage requires the revenue is less. So the board decided to keep the level of maintenance that needed to be done that was originally planned for, is what the supplement is.
Right, so the board decided to spend more.
No, the board decided to
Pick up the difference.
pick up the difference of what was originally intended because the revenues from the millage are down.
Right, but still, someone decided to spend it. So there was only so much money. I'm sure it has something to do with the dark stores and lots of other issues, but until I guess, I think we hear from the attorney, I agree with Randy Retired that we need to wait until we decide to do what to do with the road committee.
Okay. Roger, do you want to add anything before we?
No, this
Bond?
was news to me,
Okay.
basically, so I haven't had a chance, and rather than shooting from the hip and
That's fine.
saying something that I regret, I'll just
Yeah, that's
remain
okay.
mute tonight.
We'll jump. Okay. Go ahead, Ernie. Or actually, Pete, you've been waiting. Go ahead.
It's just, the money that we put out for millage is get X amount of dollars, and we'll do what we can with that X amount of dollars. We don't have to go beyond that, because that's not the intent of it. So if we didn't have enough money, if the bids come in higher, this time the bids come in lower, we could do what we can with that money. We also have put $50,000 away for roads. Are you using that for the maintenance?
It should be in that same fund, yeah.
Yeah, the budget includes 66, almost 67,000 this year for road maintenance. But that entire amount is part of the general fund supplement to the Township Improvement Fund. It is not millage money.
What did the millage money come in at, John?
407, less a little bit.
And what was that bid, I mean, the bid came in at,
The bid,
yeah, for the repairs?
the bid for the crack sealing this year was just over 44,000.
44,000.
Yep. But the 407 only pays for a portion of the principal and interest payment that we have to make this year.
I'm just saying, if it came in at 44,000, we raised 67,000 for the road fund, just for the road fund under the millage, there should be enough to pay, and you shouldn't have to take anything out of the fund.
No, that's not true.
Okay, that's what I'm,
No.
if you look at it, you think, that's crazy math. You know?
I'm probably not explaining it well. The millage generates 407,000, correct? You with me there? 407 from the millage.
406 and some change.
Yeah, 406 and some change. We'll round it up to 407. The principal and interest payments this year is 463. All right? So you already have a funding gap. That gap is covered by the general fund. In addition, we planned another 67,000 in road maintenance, of which we're only planning to spend 44 at this time, because that's all the board has authorized us to spend. We awarded that contract to Farner for crack sealing. Maybe that was a little more clear.
Yep.
So we had an idea when we did the millage of how much was gonna come in each year. And there's a shortfall each year because our revenue keeps dropping, which is what we've said over and over,
Right.
over the years. What was unanticipated. So that's where the supplemental funding, it's not extra that we're paying, it's just we're supplementing with the general fund to cover the lost millage amount.
But I just, from my own, it's been a bad week for me, and I haven't had time to come up with a good presentation, but the road committee, I'll just say, a road committee is one of the most important ones, and you have more effect to the residents than any other one. We've got more things done in the last several years than we ever had before, as far as the road, the lighting, the brush, and all this other stuff. As far as attracting new members, I think we have to look at our newsletter and either throw it out and start all over again because it's not being effective. We're not advertising that we need people for the last 3 months. There's nothing on there saying that we need people to serve the committees. And so I just think we have to take a good look at that and try to get more members on all these committees. You know, the different committees coming up, and we have to get people interested in the township, because that's where it happens. We never talked about, I mean, we got lighting ordinance and stuff like that never been looked at in how many years? You know, no one talked about changing the lighting, no one changed about cutting the brushes back, no one talked about intersecting clear view and stuff like that for years, you know? So I just think that's one committee that touches the residential population more so than a lot of other ones. So, not that the other ones aren't important, because they all touch our residents, but to throw this one out with the bathwater, I don't think so. I think it'd be one of our biggest mistakes.
Okay.
But I think we have to improve upon our advertising and stuff like that, because it's not getting done. And we have to start getting back to these people that we say we're gonna get back to, because nobody got back to them, because I asked them twice, and you said you're gonna call them, and then you said Jason was gonna call them, and nothing never happened. So he don't have nothing about the road committee, because I was gonna start making it up. So we have to do a better job of advertising and following through.
I'll have to ask you later what you're talking about, because I'm not real sure. I don't know what you mean. Ernie, you had your hand up.
A couple of things. The millage that was passed was paid to pay for what we did in the township on the roads and that. Prior to that millage taken care of, we always had in the budget X number of dollars for road maintenance and that. To me, that was just rolled over to whatever we needed on top of what we got from the millage and that. So we're talking 407,000 that's coming in. It's not quite covering enough. We had that, you can call it whatever you want, the dollars are from the previous one that we've kept rolling into the actual budget from prior. I'm trying to go back in time. It's almost like $100,000 that we're budgeting.
50,000 we're
50.
budgeting.
Was
Yeah.
it 50? Well, it was 50,000, but that was what, 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that.
Still 50,000.
Yeah, it's
It's
still
still
the same.
50,000, but that money was rolled over to the road, and along with the budget amount, so, I don't see there's a big problem at this point in time. We may be short some dollars, but we're looking at roads within the township. We're not getting any support from the county, so we either do it ourselves or we just let the roads go and that, but I don't think we're at that point now. So, we have to take some dollars out of the general fund over and above the 50,000 to pay the difference in that. And we're fortunate that the crack seal came in lower than it projected. And that, so we have that dollar amount sitting out there that we don't have to worry about spending in that.
Well, let me just tell you one comment from my wife one time. She said, Pete, do they really need to spend that much money to fix a road? So I was going to Escanaba one time. I come back through Iron Mountain and on purpose because I wanted to take her on a road right through Republic. So I pulled in on South Republic, took the old road into Republic, and we got out on the highway again. She said, boy, that road is that ever bad? I said, if we don't take care of our road, Maryland, that's what it's gonna look like. And she never had a question after that. But I mean, you can't leave it go.
Yes, Randy?
So I think to end this and move on, I'll make a motion and move this to the next agenda.
Well, we already have a motion on the floor from John. It doesn't have support.
Didn't get a second, no.
Yeah, well, we didn't determine that it failed because of lack of a second. We just started talking. So,
The whole thing,
do we
that's
have
fine.
a support for John's motion? Okay, motion fails.
Well,
Now,
it just didn't happen. I'll move to put this on the agenda for the next meeting.
okay, that'll be July 6th.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
That'll give us enough time to talk about it. We kind of segued with,
You need to support,
I do,
we segued with the whole road project. But again, the intent was not to totally dissolve the committee. It was to make them more efficient and enable them to do the job without having the constraints of a structured committee, if that makes sense. So we'll have to find out from legal if that's applicable because of the millage.
and you can't, in my opinion, as clerk and as a record keeper, you can't have a loose committee, because you have to have minutes. You have to have minutes, and you have to have an agenda of any committee, so you do have a record of it, because as time moves on, there's been, in my time here, there's been, and I'm not saying any names, but there's been a lot of committees in the past that didn't have any minutes or agendas.
Well, then we need to restructure the events committee.
We do.
Okay.
Because I think there has to be something written what they do, at least at a meeting, in some part, just so we know what happened. Or a recording or something,
Well,
because,
then they need to be appointed, and they need to have a quorum,
correct.
and it needs to be a township function and not other people who live in different parts of the county.
Well, I think you, and I'm not quite sure if it has to be township residents on a committee that's not statutorily a township committee, but we can look into that.
Okay. So we have a motion and support to put this on the next agenda. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, consider MDOT contract for US 41 non-motorized facility project. Thinking that falls to John.
So this is this pretty standard boilerplate agreement between MDOT and Marquette Township, associated with the funding mechanisms for the TAP grant project that is scheduled to be built a little bit later on this summer. The bids have come in. They're slightly over the engineer's estimate, but they are within the allowable range for MDOT to award the project, so they do intend to award it. This board has committed to the project based on the successful receipt of the TAP grant. And there is a commitment, upfront commitment that the township needs to pay of $42,800. But before we agree to pay that invoice, we need to approve this agreement, which has been reviewed by our legal counsel.
This is our matching fund
Correct.
on that.
Yes. Yep, and we're required to pay that up front as working capital.
Go ahead, Ernie.
I move to approve the contract with MDOT for the non-motorized path construction along US 4128 from Wright Street to Commerce Drive with a township match of $42,800.
Support.
Okay. Is that what you wanted, John, or was there something else? Okay.
Would that be the supervisor and the clerk to sign, or I believe that there's two spaces
Yeah, it
on this
doesn't say.
contract?
It doesn't say.
So
You want to specify,
if you just want to
Ernie?
amend it, so supervisor and clerk to sign.
I will amend it to have the supervisor and clerk sign.
I support.
Okay,
Okay.
that'll work.
Anything else? Any other questions for John? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'm watching your lips, Linda, so I know when you, I know you're approving.
Good job.
Yep,
She's a smooth talker.
I know. She's at least voting anyway. That's good. All right, thank you for that. Next up is approve the MDOT invoice for local match, which is working capital per agreement of 21-5084.
So you had to approve the agreement to pay the invoice. That's what this next one is. It's that working capital that MDOT is requiring per the agreement that you just approved.
I'll move to pay the invoice for the non-motorized pathway construction along the US 41 M28 in the amount of $42,800 per the approved contract. The payment is the township's full commitment to the project as local matching
Support.
funds.
Motion and support. Any other questions?
You may want to try to explain that, because you come up with the same dollar amount both times, so people know what we're talking about too, so, John.
Yeah, it's not $85,000. It's $42,800. not doubled.
Correct. But the project going over budget, we will be dipping into contingency. This 42.8 is our match to the grant. We will also pay our share of the contingency for anything over the original estimate, just so everyone's aware of that.
So Lois figured 50,000, just to make sure.
And that's what was in the budget amendment that you approved this morning, or earlier.
It's just that with people watching, all of a sudden you just put one for 42.8, now you got another one
Is this
for
a duplicate?
42.8.
Yeah.
Yep, the first one was the agreement, the second one is the invoice.
People listening aren't gonna realize that.
We're only paying it one time.
Right.
Okay.
Just don't take it out of the
Anything else for John? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consider Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority request on battery collection. This has been rustling around the office for a little while. John and I have talked about it excessively, ad nauseum. Actually, the previous manager and I talked about it quite a bit too, because I was all for it. I thought it was a great idea when Solid Waste recommended it. And Randy was pretty upset, thinking that we would have what could be combustible material on the property, especially after hours. So I put the action item in here, but I did not put a recommendation because I don't have a recommendation. I wanted us to have the discussion about how we feel. There are other communities in the county that are doing this. And I understand completely why they want to make sure these items are out of the landfill. They're doing whatever they can to prevent fires. So I'm looking for some kind of an idea of what to do, what you feel is good. Ernie?
I brought this up at the Business Association meeting today, that this was on the agenda tonight, and there was discussion. And one of the board members says, are you aware, from what I hear, are you aware that Goodwill accepts batteries over there as a recyclable place? I said, I never heard about that. So I figured I'd bring it up to the board and we can do some research to see if they do it. Maybe we can then somehow get the information to the people to utilize Goodwill and that, rather than us assuming the responsibility here. I had never heard about it. I'm completely void of any information on it at all. But I figured I would at least bring it up when we move in that direction, just to see if it's possible. I don't know. That's,
And they may require that the taping happens too, as it's, you see in the packet. I don't know.
I'm dead in the water. I'm just telling you what I
didn't know that.
was told today. And that's it.
And the manager, or whatever, let's see, what's his title, supervisor, Josh Whale, said the solid waste didn't bring that up either. And I did ask him, I said, okay, so we have this box and it's full, then what do? We have to bring it to you, or do you pick it up? And he said, no, you'd have to bring it to us. So, and they recommend that we put it outside, have it in so people can put their stuff in and then leave it out at night. And that's what Randy Gerard was concerned about, people messing with them, and then they have people leaving car batteries. So I don't have a good answer, like I said. I can look into the Goodwill thing and either call them or call Solid Waste and see what they
I have
do.
no idea. I'm just error of message.
So, thoughts?
I have a concern with liability more than anything.
That's what Randy was worried about too. Randy, go ahead.
Okay, this is a good example of policy governance. We make a policy that we would like to do. We got a request from the county to do battery recycling, and let the manager and staff figure it out for us, if we can.
Is that okay with you, John? You had your light on too.
That might have been lingering from a couple
Oh,
of
no, I shut
items
it
ago.
off once before. but-
Okay. I'm not opposed to continue doing the research to figure out the best solution for the township. I have the same concerns that there are some of these batteries that are combustible, so we don't necessarily want to bring that into the building and have to be tending it on a daily basis at the end of each day and at the beginning of the next, potentially creating an issue outside. That's not to say that there aren't solutions for us to provide our taxpayers, residents, that help us keep that stuff out of the landfill. So we can do a little more research on it.
Okay. So we're turning it over to staff.
Linda did have her hand up.
Yes, Linda, sorry, I didn't see it.
I really do support, seeing if Goodwill is actually a disposal site for batteries. So thank you, John, for looking into that and coming back to us.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else on that?
So basically, we're just gonna turn it over to staff, the request from turn it over to the manager and his staff, and he'll come back with a proposal or a recommendation for us to move on.
Okay.
More work for you, John.
I'm not afraid to call Josh Wales myself and have the same conversation that Lynn had with him. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I told him we'd get back to him after tonight, so you can then. One of us, that's fine. Good. Thank you for that. All right, consider MTA dues subscription. This was a carryover from the last meeting, and I must have missed some of the same things that the rest of the board missed when I reread all the information they provided, because Manager Kangas pointed out all the answers were in that documentation. So if you want to go through your discovery, your explanation, John, I appreciate it.
Sure. Let's see if I can change gears real quick. I'm still thinking about recycling
Oh,
batteries.
you can take a second. I did switch pretty quickly.
Well, the recommendation is to pay the renewal with the legal defense fund portion and the premium pass. So our premium pass currently expires in October. If we pay it now with this renewal, we will basically be renewing our premium pass through October of 2022. So we aren't going to get shortchanged in there. They'll just add another year on to what we've already paid for. And that legal defense fund portion does cover some of their costs when they're fighting dark store issues. That's specifically one that's in their language in this document. So I think that's probably one of the most near and dear to our hearts that the MTA fights on township behalf. So my recommendation was you just take care of it all now so we don't have to be invoiced again in October for that premium pass.
And then legal defense fund's only $143 for the year. So it's not.
That would give us more than an hour of our local council's time, but it's probably a half hour of their time, I'm guessing, just to put things in perspective.
So it's not thousands of dollars, is what my point was.
I'll make a motion that we approve and pay, I don't have the amount down here.
$49.16.85?
Yes.
Well,
That does not include the premium pass, though.
plus,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
the
That's
premium.
So
just,
it's-
yeah,
681685.
no support.
Support.
lots of support, yeah.
68.
5816, what?
68.16.85.
6816.85.
It's in the action.
No, I didn't look it up.
Okay. Linda, you had your hand up.
Yeah, the real issue here is that a donation or is that a fee for that legal fund? They need to kind of language, I think that was really the question when we moved it forward, because we couldn't understand what they were saying to us. My guess is it's probably a fee, but they're listing it as a donation. Well, maybe we can just point that out to them. And maybe it's a nothing thing.
Well, we could do the motion contingent on defining that. Roger?
I did take a look at that and neglected to mention it in my report.
Okay.
And it would qualify as a fee, not as a donation. There is some case law that's fairly analogous on that. And one of the cases that comes to mind is where one township in the Lower Peninsula actually helped pay legal fees being incurred by an adjacent or an adjoining township, even though it didn't affect directly the property at issue in the first township, but the same issue was a very burning, pressing issue in both townships, and the Court of Appeals basically determined that that was a permissible expense for both townships to incur. So the analogy is pretty direct, and this would qualify as a fee rather than a donation, and would be a permissible expenditure, and I apologize for failing to mention that in the report earlier.
Thanks for reminding us, Linda. Good job.
Thanks, Roger.
So I use the dark stores as one of the examples, but they itemized several of them in their letter here, and I'll state: dark stores and other tax issues, planning and zoning, right-of-way, financial and other emerging issues continue as their priorities. So it's a laundry list of issues that are important to townships that they use that fund for.
Okay. So the motion is to pay the $68,1685, which includes the premium pass, paying ahead, the dues for this year, and the legal fund. And we're good with that? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, adopt resolution for Marquette County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. That was a bugger to read. I didn't read every
Which is
single page.
Sorry, I did not intend to include the entire document in the packet. When I attached what I thought was a cover page with a link to the packet, it linked the whole thing, and I didn't realize it until the whole packet was assembled. So I apologize, that was my fault. Next time I will review my attachments once they're in the software to make sure it's what I think it is.
Randy?
I'll move to accept the resolution to adopt the 2021 Marquette County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion?
Lots of reading.
It's a roll call vote because it is a resolution.
Interesting reading now.
Nothing, no other questions?
I think it was a good plan, very thorough.
Yes.
Roll call vote is clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Marks?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow?
I heard her.
Did you say yes, Linda?
Yes.
I heard her.
Okay, I have to be clear now. Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Durant?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Okay. Committee updates. Linda, what do you have on planning?
Planning did not meet last Wednesday. They will be meeting this coming Wednesday, so no update.
Okay, that was short and sweet. How about recreation? We don't have Dan. Okay. Pete, has the roads committee met?
No,
Okay.
we're short 2 members.
All right. What do we know about events?
The events are, we had a meeting this morning, and we're just to finalize locations and tables and chairs and stuff like that for this coming car show. The car show is Saturday, June 19th, from 10 o'clock in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, right at the Westwood Mall. So we went over that, and then we discussed a little bit about August 7th, Community Days. What we're gonna plan on doing that, having a ball game or whatever we can do. So that's the extent of it. So this one will be June 19th. That's this coming Saturday at 10 to 2 at Westwood Mall. And August 7th at the Lions Field, and that would be our Community Day.
Okay. Guess that's all we have. Draft committee reports, we don't have any of those. Any public comment emails?
Yes, Mr. Springer sent an email. He said if it's not too late for public comment, I made a movie of the photos and videos I took that day. So I'll see if I can put that up here quickly.
The Iron Range Roll.
Yes. So I'll put that up here. Let me share the screen so the Zoomers can see that.
Oh, it says it's 3 minutes. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's public comment.
Yeah, so let me get it up here. It's a YouTube link, so it shouldn't launch here. Are you seeing this, Linda?
I am.
Okay.
I'm seeing it again.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Mike. I hope you never retire, because these visual histories are important. And no other emails?
No other emails.
Okay. What do we have for announcements? Anything? Anybody?
Oh, I will state that we got the civic clerks up and running. Packet generation was very easy. Andra didn't really, which has done the packets in the past, she didn't really have to do really much. It was very more efficient. I just pushed 2 buttons, created the agenda, the packet, and was emailed to you folks. So she didn't have to even deal with it, which is fine. And moving forward, what we'll do is, I usually sign off on the agenda. Well, I will produce it and send it out, and that'll mean that I've signed off on it. So that's what we'll do. Or Manager Kangas will do that. I'll show him how to do it. It's very easy once we get it going and doing it. So more efficient. And when I was up there with Andra, showing her how to do things, and you know, she's interrupted so many times by the phone and people coming in, more people coming in now and such. It's amazing that she gets anything done at times, so. So anyways, I'm happy to report that's moving along, and it's moving along pretty good, in my opinion, so. And I'll show you on the website here again. I'll get the website up. I'll share the screen so Linda can see it. So again, for the residents, it's very easy. You go to our website, minutes and agendas, click on that, and then it'll be linked right into our civic clerk portal. And you just look at the meeting coming up, and you'd click on the right side, and you can download the agenda or the packet. It's very easy, and it comes in a PDF, and then boom, bang, you got it. So the only thing we are working on is, and that's for the current and upcoming events. What we are doing with, you can see now in the most recent events, what we're going to be doing is I'm backfilling the old agendas, packets, and minutes into those old events, which it's pretty easy, but it's kind of a tedious thing, because in order to get everything labeled correctly and the dates and times correct, you have to be a little bit more tedious on it. But once it's uploaded, it's good. So like on the June 1st board meeting, you can click the agenda, packet, or minutes. So and the minutes actually will be, the minutes will actually be posted, should have been posted tomorrow, because they're not, we technically approved them, but I don't like them posted to the next day. So the software has a capability of doing that, so I'll do that. But all the other meetings we have are agenda and minutes, packets, so. And what the new planner coming on board, I'm gonna train him on how to use this for the planning commission. So you'll see planning commission stuff on that. So you'll have the planning commission agendas, packets, and minutes also in this portal. So it'll be nice for the residents. I'm trying to get all committees to put this into the portal, at least backfilling it, so you can find everything in one spot. So kind of a depository of all our committee stuff, which would be good. Because before, you had to go to this place, you had to go to this place to get it. And I know Supervisor Durant was sometimes frustrated because she wanted to get planning commission information, and you couldn't go, you had to go to a different spot, and we didn't know if it was posted, and so now hopefully we get everything in one spot and it'll be better. I think more efficient use of staff time and resources, so. Yeah.
More accommodating for the public if they want to.
Yeah, everything, like I said, all committees, and my objective is to get all committees using this, including the roads. You know, I think events are gonna have to go that route too. In recreation, we'll put the agendas, and most of the time they don't have packets, so it's not a big deal, but minutes, at least minutes of those meetings, so moving forward, we have everything in one spot.
That should fall to the extraneous committees too, like the DDA and
Correct.
Board of Review, ZBA.
Yep.
You know, those other ones that we don't think about as much. They
So-
all have a place on here.
Yeah, so I will coordinate with the secretaries of those committees, and hopefully we can get, if we can get we need to get the information, and once we get the information, we can upload it.
Sure.
So that's what I'm looking at, and trying to make everything kind of more efficient, and I think we're there, so we're moving forward.
Good job. That's great. Okay. Any other announcements? All right. Manager, you're up.
Okay, first things first, 906 is gonna be back tomorrow installing some more of the equipment that they've received for the technology upgrades in the community room. There are still some items on the list that are back ordered, so it'll be a while yet, but we're still making progress, and that's really what we're trying to do, is get that whole system back up and running as quickly as possible. The replacement router and firewall is in, and they are programming that. I'm assuming that will also be put in line by the time that the community room improvements are done. So that should be happening soon. The 4 job descriptions associated with the deputy treasurer position are about one step closer to being ready for your review. I want to thank Supervisor Durant for taking this project from a very narrow focused shuffling responsibilities around to a full-blown review. Something that I certainly hadn't considered doing, but makes sense when you look at all of the things that she's found in these documents. So it'll be a little bit, but hopefully we can get these back to you in July. The key being we need to get that deputy treasurer job description separated first so that our treasurer can appoint a deputy treasurer. So that should be coming hopefully soon. And then focus moving forward for the remainder of the year, aside from getting those 4 job descriptions done, is to get going on contract negotiations and then the budget. So I feel like the first half of this year really flew by, so I got to be careful that the second half doesn't slip away from me. So all of that should be getting going soon too. And with contract negotiations, I'll want to get a meeting of the committee going before we request the first meetings with each of the bargaining units. Otherwise, we might find out that I'm on a completely different wavelength than where the board might be. So that's about it. Website, was it Friday afternoon that it was first noticed the logo on the top of our webpage disappeared and we became Anytown?
Anytime USA?
That Anytown was actually what the template said that we chose right at the early beginning of this new website process, and somehow our logo just disappeared. But it's corrected now, and I urge anyone, if they see anything funny on our website, let us know and we'll get on it right away.
We still are kind of in the development stage, so.
Definitely in the page or site populating stage, for sure.
Any questions for the manager, Ernie?
Going through your report, you're talking about the audit. That has to be finalized because it has to be to the state by the end of June and that, so.
Correct.
What's the status of that? Because we were only talking a couple weeks away and that too.
Yeah, they are finalizing the final draft as we speak. This was, the day I wrote my report, Lois got a response back from them that indicated they should have the final draft soon, meaning it's going to be any day now.
They send it right into the state once they get it done.
Yep.
We really don't have a chance to look at it until it's
Yeah.
gone by the time
And,
we looked at it.
You know, an audit is an audit, right?
I
It's
know.
an independent review of our books.
Right.
So we can't tell them what they need to find.
I often would like to take a look at it before the state does. Because more than the state gets it, then we get it to look at it, so. Any questions come through, the state's already got a lot of questions and we haven't even seen it yet.
The good news is historically our audits have gone very well.
Yes, Linda? She doesn't have a button.
So, Manager Kangas did, the, police that we hired, the county sheriffs, are they attempting to patrol a little bit more in Trowbridge that we addressed last time? And, is the construction company able to put up some 25-mile-per-hour signs on Woodridge? We talked about that. You were gonna see if you could contact.
I failed to do that, so I'll get on that first thing tomorrow. I apologize.
Well, the sheriff's,
That's okay, I'm sure you're busy. And then I just have one question, Ernie, who does our audit?
It's Gaybridge from Grand Rapids area.
They've been doing it for about 5 years now, 5 or 6 years.
Okay, thank you.
The sheriff's report did say that they were patrolling more, and then especially on the highway, in the construction zone. So I'm not sure about off of Ontario, but
They are on Woodridge.
they are doing more patrolling. What were you gonna say, Randy?
If the board, once the final audit comes in, I'm sure we could set up a Zoom link for them and they could Zoom in if we have any questions. I think we did that a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Had it more on a phone. We didn't have Zoom at the time. We had a phone, but, so if the board's interested in that, we can do that.
Well, Ernie's brought that up a few years, you know, and it is kind of, I've always tried to make sure that the board hears things before, you know, it hits the newspaper. There've been times in the past where, even as a trustee, I got calls at the hotel, like, do you know anything about this? It's on the front page, and I didn't, you know, so I wanna make sure the board knows stuff before it happens, or, you know, before it hits the public, so that's kind of the same mindset. It's, you know, here we are being kind of judged, or at least staff, and we don't even know what it is. So I understand that.
Well, the normal timeline on the audit is usually they're here in March and April, and then they're usually done by May, but probably because of things this year, the COVID and such, they weren't be able to come, and, so it's probably a little later than it usually is, but.
There's really been no problem in the past, it's just that getting the information, if anyone has any questions, we have some time to look at it and come up with some answers, I hope, and that too, so.
Well, I'm sure if there was questions, they would have let us know by now, so.
Yeah, you know.
Well, we might have questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clarification. What else for the manager? Anything?
No, we could tell the manager we're glad he's here. It's another, Saturday will be his 1 year.
Way to think about
Glad to have
that.
him.
That's great.
Well, speaking of that, I did look at the manager's contract, and I will be sending out evaluation forms in August to be completed by September.
Much shorter version this time.
Yeah, it should be a lot quicker. You can still put comments in the sheet or additional pages, but it won't be a long drawn-out process like in the past, and we can still get the same numbers and reflections, so,
No party.
no parting.
This board has never liked that evaluation form that we were using. Past boards may have, but this one didn't. Anything else? Okay, you want to review the motions, Randy?
Okay, so first motion was to approve the consent agenda as amended. A few changes I have to take care of in the minutes, and then I have to change that budget amendment. Approval of the agenda, regular agenda as presented was approved. The third motion was to move the agenda item, consider dissolving road committee to the next regular meeting, and that was approved. Fourth motion was to approve the MDOT contract for US 41 non-motorized facility project, and that was approved. Fifth motion was to approve the MDOT invoice for the local match per the agreement that we approved in the previous motion, and that was approved. An action item, not a motion, is to, the action item for staff is to come up with a recommendation for the battery collection, so that's not a motion, but an action item for you. Sixth motion was to approve the MTA dues subscription invoice, and that was approved for $6,816.85. And the seventh motion was to approve the resolution for the Marquette County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan, and that was approved.
Okay.
Hey,
So for right now, the future agenda has road committee discussion and job descriptions, and that next meeting is July 6th. So it'll be 3 weeks before we meet again, just to kind of remind everybody.
And what's nice too, Lynn, about our new software is I can just go into this agenda, click copy on that motion we're moving, or the agenda item we're moving, and I can put it on the next agenda, and everything's moved right over.
You'll have to cut and paste and
I don't have to do any of that
miss a line or
any longer,
forget
no.
something. Good deal.
More efficient that way too.
I need to figure out how to do the action sheets, or how to not get them.
I'll show you, it's easy.
That's
And actually, I fixed the agenda action item form, so that now there's spaces in between. So it's not as compact, so. And also too, on that fact, my minutes are gonna look a little bit different because we couldn't quite get the same format as the old minutes. It's close, but we're not gonna get, it's just software limitations. So when we do put them in, when you do see the new minutes, they're gonna look a little different, not a lot different, but a little different.
Okay. All right, any board member comment? Ernie?
A couple items, they come from the Business Association meeting today. One of it, they're looking at trying to put something on their website, letting people know how they can get into their different places of business from the highway and that. So they're looking at that to see if it can be done and that. So if they can, it'll be up in the next week or so and that. But they're making, one of the members is making a presentation and trying to put something together like that. So we may see it, we may not see it in the next couple of weeks and that too, so. The other one is on fluorescent light fixtures, the burnt out ones. That came up, and that was a lot of discussion today. There's no place to get rid of them and that. And they were concerned with is there anything the township can work with the solid waste or wherever else to have a place to get rid of them, because Frank's appeal said that he's got a whole back room full of them because the company from Wisconsin comes up once a year and it costs them probably more to bring them up than it buys for the lights and that. So it's a mess and that. And I offered if he didn't have room, I had 3 or 4 of them at the house too for him and that. But he says it is a problem and that with fluorescent fixtures and that, because the county won't take them and that. I said I'd bring it up tonight see where it would go.
Well, maybe that falls to the solid waste discussion with Josh on kind of recycling, repurposing, what do we do with them? Okay.
Okay, that, 2 items that came up.
Linda has her
Good.
hand up.
Yes, Linda?
So, doesn't the hazardous waste, collection take those bulbs? I would call Marquette County, who's the hazardous waste for Marquette County? We just went there on Thursday. It was at the old, county city dump area. And I thought they did fluorescent, those bulbs.
Comment on
Okay, go ahead.
I'll see
On
what I
that,
know too, Ernie.
on that, I've taken them down there, it's been a couple of years, and last time I had them loose in the back of the car. They took them, but they told them it has to be wrapped in a box from that point on. They will not take them unless it's all wrapped up in that. So,
Well, right, but Frank could probably, the businesses, they could probably do that. They're much safer to carry in a box anyways.
that could be where you get the boxes.
Yeah, 8-foot, some of those lights are, we had
Yeah, you
6 and 8
get a
foot lights.
refrigerator box and fill her up.
Okay, I've got one in my backyard, right?
Yeah. Yeah, let me look and see what I can find out for you.
You keep the box, the new ones
Okay.
came in. That's what we do.
What else? Any other board member comments?
Are you going to have a get-together with the new city manager?
You coming up to talk to us?
I've invited her to come and talk to John and me at least.
Okay, that's fine.
And I also said that we might like to visit with both boards, because we haven't done it in years. And I said, don't worry about doing it your first week there. So,
It's fine.
yeah. So we can broach that on Thursday when we visit. Hopefully she'll be there. Thanks. Anything else?
I move to adjourn.
Of course.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We are adjourned. Let me see what time it is. 8:37.